Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. I love that you brought up how to define success, because I think that's a great activity that we should take our teams through at the beginning of the season, throughout the season, maybe when you're at highs and lows. During the highs, bringing them back to what this is really about. During the lows, too, reminding them of why we're doing this and what we're trying to achieve and the path that we're on. Coach, when are we going to see some success? It takes what it takes, right? It's just that process. And then when we see success, keeping the humility, keeping perspective. But how you define success, I think, says a lot about your overall culture of your program. And that may be like a no crap thing to say, but I think a lot of people maybe say we want to have a culture like love, joy, toughness. That's a great culture to have and aspire to, but we want to win at all costs. The only thing that matters is winning. Those messages sometimes don't always line up. So I think how you define that, Coach, that's huge.
Yeah, and I'm not some expert at it. I struggle with it. You and I were talking earlier, like, I'm not up here on my high horse saying this is how we do things and it's perfect. When I got this job, this is year 11 as a head coach, and everywhere I've been as a player and a coach, I've been fortunate to have some unbelievable teammates and some really, really great coaches. From winning a couple state titles in high school to winning at Vanguard to Russ Davis, my first boss on the women's side, back-to-back Elite Eights, and then learning from Rhett Soliday, who is an unbelievable coach and human being, one of my mentors and best friends, and flipping Vanguard around from a 6-win team to 4 years later winning 32 games in the national championship at the NAI level. So Mark Campbell pouring into me at Union University, who's like the #1 winningest coach in the history of NCAA on either side. My resume is not like a lot of these guys where, man, they've won 85% of their games. We've won at a high level, and we've lost at a level that, like, I don't desire to do anymore, for the record. But I think that continual ask of how do you define success and where's your identity, I think they go together. And for me, as a Christ-following husband and father first, it's just a reminder that, like, I have more questions than answers. When I got this job, I was 32 years old. It was my second job, and we experienced some ridiculous success. And I kind of was like, all right, like, we're going to do it again. Here we go. And I had more answers than questions. And now I'll be 39 in a couple of weeks. As a leader, I have more questions than answers. And that's okay, because his power is made perfect in my weakness, and the vulnerability that I get to show with my staff and my players on a day-to-day basis. Don't get me wrong, I'm confident and we work really hard, but, like, I'm still after who I'm becoming, and it's okay for our guys to do that. So this journey of winning and losing and this journey of finding success, I really believe it's where are you doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you're called to, where you're called to it. And if you're giving everything you have and you can answer those two questions well, man, you're living successfully. And so, yeah, I'd love to sit up here and be like, yeah, I got the answers. But the truth is, I'm a big work in progress, and I'm learning as I go.
I think, too, having a realistic look in the situation you're in with the players that you have. I think at the high school level, most programs will talk about winning a state championship in the preseason. They'll talk about going undefeated, not undefeated, but they never talk about losing. One of the things I love about Doug Novak, he said the first thing we talk about first practice is what are we going to do when we lose? Like, how are we going to be as a team? I thought, wow, that's different. Like, that's the exact opposite, I think, of what I've always done or what most do. But looking at your situation and defining success, not outwardly saying, like, guys, listen, because of where we are, if we only win 5 games this year, that's a pretty darn good year. I'm not saying that. But having those realistic expectations and going back again to the leftovers, I mean, when we had 6 scholarship players, we were 8-21. Incredible success. Incredible. Like, we shouldn't even have had the 8. We were competitive in games we shouldn't. And Coach Drew did a really good job of celebrating us throughout that journey. I mean, we had outward goals of 15 wins. The year before, with all of our players, we'd only had 14 wins. So Coach Drew came in and said, let's win 15 this year. We didn't hit that. But not once did we ever feel like we were failures because of that, because of the way that we looked at success and competing that at its like base form is our 5 versus their 5. Like, what can we do tonight? How can we mix it up? Let's mess up their plans to celebrate. Like, that's our championship every game. But I do think if you define it by state championship or bust, a certain amount of wins or we're failures, then at some point along the way throughout a season, what if you do realize, or your players realize, I don't think that's us. I've seen who were the competition. We don't want to fear them. We want to respect them. But at the same time, like, I want players constantly being where their feet are, trying to get 1% better and defining success as we go along. But Coach, I think that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a journey for sure, because you don't want guys to back down from high level goals and pursuing something that will take something extra to get there. But like I said, I've been fortunate enough to do 5 weddings as Pastor Boom, and 4 of them are former players. And I'm not some high level pastor. I wasn't chosen for that reason, but it goes back to the relationship piece and the family piece and the trust piece that we built. But it's those days and those moments where you realize, like, all right, this is real success, and they're at least on the trajectory of making an impact and a difference. And I've done it for guys who were first team All-Americans and played professionally overseas, and I've done it for a guy that played 20 minutes in 2 years because back-to-back ACL injuries. And so it doesn't. At the end of the day, you're in your early 40s, I'm in my late 30s. And nobody ever asked what your 3-point percentage was or your assist to turnover ratio was. They care that you played, but they go, oh, that's cool. And then they move on to another subject. If that's the case when you're 40, what's it going to be when you're 60? And so then we're after the things that last. We're after the things that matter eternally. While we're doing that, we want to kick everybody's butt, because that's what you talked about, competitive spirit. Like, we talked about that earlier. God literally wired us this way. But the reminder of the main thing and what we're after is crucial.
Coach, that's a humbling moment when you realize that your players don't care at all about where you played, how good of a player you were. I think early on I was really banking on that for credibility. Guys, just, you don't believe me right now, but don't forget where I played. But the moment you realize that, man, they don't care about that. They care more about how much I care about them. Yes. I think that, and I don't know when that is for coaches, and maybe some coaches get it way earlier than I did, but I think that's an important thing, to stop looking at the game through players' eyes, like my own former ways of doing things, asking players what they see. One of my buddies, Matt Garnett, says players have to do what they see on the floor. And we can yell, he's open, up it, as much as we want. But if that dude doesn't see it, if he doesn't, now maybe through breakdown drills or through skill work, we can help them to see more. Sure. But I think we got to help them to do what they see. Once we get past resting on our past accomplishments, I think that makes us better coaches.
Yeah, I ultimately believe college guys and high school guys, to an extent, are after 3 things. They want to be fed, they want to be heard, and they want a model to pursue, right? And I've really come to grips with that. Every year it just keeps getting proven more and more true. Can you feed them? Physically, for sure, because every college student in the world wants to eat. You know what I'm saying? You put food in front of them, they're gonna down it. But you look through scripture, and even through early days of United States, the Pilgrims, like, community is founded over food and breaking bread. And these college and high school athletes are no different. They want to be fed. And then they want to be fed as men too, and learning how to grow. But the second thing is they want to be heard, right? And as coaches, we have to be really cognizant and aware. We want our student athletes to be self-aware, but not always are we self-aware that like we have a practice plan and we're going to get through this plan, and we have a day to get through a meeting, and then I got to watch film, and then I got to talk to this recruit and all this stuff. Are you allowing yourself to be interrupted because a player needs to tell you something, whether that's in practice or in the office or at 11:30 at night? Because ultimately they want to be heard. They want to be listened to. Nobody feels loved if they're not listened to. So fed, heard, and then modeled. Do they have someone that is modeling what they want to become? I think there's this bravado of young athletes like, I got it all together and I don't need anybody's help. But in reality, they're crying out on the inside for somebody show me the way. And if you can feed them, you can create space to listen to them, and you can model that for them, what real leadership, what real love and humility. And if you're married, your marriage, and if you're a parent, how you parent and lead your family, man, that creates a chance for amazing impact. And that's real success.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.